Okay, great. Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Fred Wilson. I'll be the hearings officer for today's public hearing. And we have an interpreter here for the applicant, so I'm going to try not to go in too long of bursts. This is the time set aside for the public hearing in the Mendoza and Rangel case. File number is ADJ 20-006. So today is a time for people to give testimony, present evidence, and make legal arguments. I won't make a final decision today. There'll be a later written decision that comes out after the record is closed. Okay. We are recording this, and it's being broadcast on CCTV. And there are a few things I have to talk about for every public hearing. I have to disclose whether I've had any ex parte contacts. And that's any discussions about the merits of the case before today. And I haven't. The only thing I know about this case is what's in the file. I also need to disclose whether I'm biased. Whether I'm for or against the application for any reason other than the merits of the case. And I'm not, I don't know the parties, so I don't have any reason to feel one way or the other. Finally, I need to disclose whether I have any conflicts of interest. I don't. I live over in West Salem. I don't have any family that owns property anywhere in unincorporated Marion County, let alone near this property. A few other things I have to talk about under local code and state law. Please direct your testimony to the approval criteria. They are the adjustment criteria under 16.41. And there's also the single-family zone standards of 16.02. Make sure that you raise any and all issues you have. If you don't raise those under state law, you may be precluded from raising them in the future. If there are any further proceedings or appeals of this case. Also, as the applicant, there are a couple proposed conditions of approval. Again, under state law, if you have any issues with those, make sure to raise those issues, or you may be precluded from raising them in the future. I think the Bycrofts are going to be appearing by phone. And I'm not sure if they're watching right now or not, but also for everybody, it's important to stick to the approval criteria rather than getting into any sort of personal attacks. So if you haven't been to one of these hearings before, the way it's going to work is we will start with the staff report from Ms. Schrems. Then the applicant will have an opportunity to present their case. And then if you have anybody you want to have testify in your favor, they would go next. After that, the appellants, who are the Bycrofts, will have a chance to testify. And if anyone else shows up who wants to testify in opposition, they would testify. Then Ms. Schrems will have an opportunity to address any issues that might have come up. And finally, the applicant will have an opportunity for final rebuttal since they have the burden of proof. And if anybody wants to request that the record be left open in order to submit additional information or anything like that, make sure to request that when it's your opportunity to testify. Okay. And unless we have any preliminary matters, we can turn to the staff report. And it doesn't appear that we do, so the floor is yours, Ms. Schrems.
All right. Hello there. For the record, this is Alyssa Schrems with the Marion County Planning and Building Department.
Oh, do you swear or testify that the testimony you will give is true to the best of your knowledge?
I do.
Thank you.
All right. So this is the application of Jose Alvarez Mendoza and Rosalba Ronjel for an adjustment to reduce the required 5-foot side, which is the north yard setback, for a carport. Yep, 5 to 0 for a carport. All right, to reduce the 5-foot side yard, which is the north, setback to 2 feet. And the required 14-foot rear west yard setback to 0 feet for an accessory structure. Yeah, no problem. So it's going to be a 14-foot rear yard setback to 0 feet. For just an accessory structure. Yep, and this is at 375 Deanna Street, Northeast Salem. All right, so we have 4 options today. We can approve with conditions. We can modify or we can deny. And then one thing is with the conditions of approval, there is one error I'd like to point out.
I was going to ask you about that.
Yep, staff accidentally said maintain 5 feet when we meant 0. So if we move forward with approval, staff would recommend changing that.
And under number 4 are the findings and conclusions.
Yep, number 2, part 2.
Part 2. No, well, just like the top of the second page of the staff report or the staff decision.
Okay.
It just talks about reducing the 5-foot north side yard setback to 2 feet. That's supposed to be south side, right? It's number 4.
So I think they're actually both north yard setbacks. So both of the buildings are clustered on the north property line.
Okay. Well, that's what I'm kind of I can't tell from the pictures and the descriptions exactly where everything is, so maybe you can explain that to me.
Yeah, I don't have the site plan in front of me, but if memory serves, there is a carport next to the house. And then there is a building in it's going to be the northwest corner, and that's the one getting the adjustment.
Okay, we'll let him translate that part.
Yep, sorry, that was probably a little fast. Yep, I was just explaining where the buildings are. So the carport is next to the house, and the accessory structure is in the northwest corner.
So I've seen a picture of what I thought was the shed, and it has like a side roof coming off of it. I thought that was the carport everybody was talking about. Is that not right?
There is.
We better.
Yeah, we better wait. There's also an actual carport that is next to the house where you can just drive a car in.
And which side is that on?
Should be on the north side of the house.
So I have the site plan. Maybe you can come up and just point it
Sure.
out to me. So I think that's north. So is that the carport?
Yeah. So they didn't, but yeah, the driveway goes in through the carport, and this shed is the one. So
And
when
then
I
the-
look at aerials, it's more in the corner here.
And so, and then the shed goes, it's got this sort of the roof that goes there.
Yes.
So what does this look like?
Like a carport with 4 posts and a roof.
And it goes all the way to the north property line.
Mm-hmm.
So this goes to the property line,
Yeah, like
this
roof
goes to the
line
property
kinda
line,
does.
this is 2 feet away. And then, do we know how far the shed comes out? 8 feet, is that right?
Yep, looks like 8 feet.
We don't know how far it is to there.
Yeah, but distance between buildings doesn't necessarily mean
Right.
pattern planning, it's more property.
Just wonder how
lines.
much room there is to move it if they wanted to.
I'm not clear on the distance, we can
Okay.
maybe ask.
All right. Just maybe for Mr. Mendoza's benefit, I was just trying to get a picture of where the shed and carport are on the property. Okay, so there are 4 approval criteria under 1641.030. And then paragraph 7 of the staff decision, I think, addresses those. And so, obviously, that was written before there was any opposition. Now we have the benefit of the Bycroft's submission, and then they're going to testify as well. I'll probably ask you this again when we get back to you, but so, has this changed your mind about anything?
I still think with conditions, they can meet the approval criteria.
New conditions or the ones that are already proposed?
The ones proposed in conjunction with LDEP and Environmental Services recommendations. So not enclosing and understanding that if things flood in the shed, that we're not financially liable for that.
I can see how that would satisfy subsection B potentially. But I'm having trouble seeing how that satisfies A, C, or D.
So John can probably talk more accurately about how the capacity of the system would or would not be influenced by the construction. My understanding is they found that it would still meet its engineering burden.
Right, and I think that part's probably okay. I think the Bycross might have a little bit of a point about whether it's fair to let one person take up all the excess capacity versus somebody else. But I still think that one's probably okay. It's the other three that don't have anything to do with the detention area that are the problem.
Okay, so the adjustment being requested, so the setbacks that are requested are the minimum necessary to allow the construction that has occurred. So I believe that meets C.
So you're saying you can just build something all the way to the property line and then sort of define what your adjustment is by what you've built, isn't it, well?
I'm sorry, I didn't get what you said.
Yeah, so what I was saying was the adjustment they've asked for is the minimum necessary for the development. So it meets criteria C.
But isn't the question, oh, I'm sorry, go ahead. But isn't the question more that they want to have a shed? So the question is, how much of a setback do you need to have that shed? Not how much of a setback do you need to build the shed you built where you're not supposed to build it in the first place?
So Marion County Code says it's building height -9 for your setbacks. So, yeah, so the setbacks from the property line are height of the building -9. So if you have a 9-foot tall building, your setback is 0.
So I'm not following your point there.
So what they're doing potentially is allowed depending on the height of the building. So you do see construction that is on the property line.
Are you saying that 16.02.140 and 150 aren't applicable that set the setbacks?
It's for a single-family dwelling, so that one applies to the carport.
Well, and you're sort of planning was in a difficult position because the application, it didn't provide any information otherwise than, but we want to fix this. It didn't address any of the didn't even mention the criteria, let alone address them.
Yeah, so there is another section that I don't believe we cited that talks about residential structures. And in that section, it says the height of your building is 0 feet at the property line when you're 9 feet tall.
Okay, what section is that?
Let me get it pulled up for you. And then it increases 1 foot for every foot of building height. So it's going to be 16.28 .030, so .030, sorry.
Okay.
Um, Trying to get the exact one. It hides in several places in here. Okay, so here it is. So it's actually 16.28.020. It says accessory and secondary structure locations and allowable coverage. So section C, sorry, I just found it. Let me get the exact one out of Joe for you for the end of the meeting, but it is in that section, and it basically reads height of the building set back 1 foot for every increase in height from 9 feet.
So it's basically existing policy that any kind of like shed type thing you have, as long as it's less than 9 feet tall, it can be on the property line?
Correct, covers less than 25% of the rear yard.
Okay, and do we know that covers less than 25% of the rear yard here?
I didn't calculate it, but most likely it does. The
Okay.
issue with this one is more that it's in that stormwater detention area.
Okay. But we don't need an adjustment for that, right? If 1628.030.020 says, oh, I'm sorry. If it says you don't, that you can be in the setback, then why do we need an adjustment for the shed?
We're not clear on the height of the building, so it's more of a safety thing. They're already having to do the adjustment, so you can throw it in and be covered.
Because I also think it's gonna be really difficult to meet, at least unless we can pull something from 28 in, the subsection D. There's gonna be issues with subsection D of the approval criteria. D basically gives you one of two options, right? The first one is the intent and purpose of the specific provision to be adjusted. Is clearly inapplicable under the circumstances. And so if there is a setback requirement, which there may not be, but if there is, it would certainly seem to be applicable. So you can't proceed under the first part of sub D. And the second part says, or the proposed development maintains the intent and purpose of the provision to be adjusted. And I think that must be what this decision was proceeding under. Because the sentence it says, the proposal maintains the intent of the adjustment. And would not otherwise be approved without one. But that sentence talks about maintaining, the proposal maintains the intent of the adjustment, not the intent of the setback provision.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't think that really says anything. And then it says, oh. And then it also says would not otherwise be approved without one. And like, I mean, that's why you're asking for the adjustment in the first place, right? So I'm not sure that there's any, I don't think there are any findings that address that subsection. So those were my questions.
Okay.
Unless you would add anything else, maybe we'll turn to the applicant.
I did finally find the code section.
Okay.
So it is .030A.
030.
So it reads, structures in a residential zone or the UD and UT zones, okay, shall not project above the following height limits. So 9 feet at the lot line, increasing 1 foot for each 1 foot of distance. From the lot line to a maximum height of 20 feet. So it's not specifically listed as a setback, it's a height limitation. But our interpretation is it functions the same way as a setback.
Okay. But that wouldn't apply to the carport, is that what you're saying?
That's correct. So if it's attached, it has to meet the setbacks listed in the decision, the 5 feet from your side property lines mainly.
Okay.
If it's within 5 feet but detached, still has to meet those as well.
Wait, say that last part again?
Yep, so if it is not attached to the house, but within 5 feet, it still has to meet those setbacks.
Within 5 feet of the house,
Correct.
Gotcha.
We consider it attached anyway.
but, okay. So tell me then what the situation with the carport is.
It's right on the property line, on the north property line, which is a side. So it's a 5-foot setback.
Okay. And we don't know how high it is?
I don't believe we do, but I would say typically carports are 12 to 14.
Okay. So that definitely will need an adjustment.
Yes, it definitely has to meet the 5-foot at the least. Because it's also in a side yard, so the height limitation's only for the rear yard.
Oh, the 1628, that's only for your yards, okay.
Mm-hmm.
Can I ask a question?
Sure. Is it a long one, or should we just have you come up and testify? Why don't you come up?
Short, it's very short.
Okay. Why don't you come up and testify? Yeah, that.
Yep,
that
it looks
one.
live.
You're from county, right?
Marion County,
Okay.
it's here.
Well, you get your name and all that stuff.
John Rasmussen, Marion County Land Development. I was trying to follow along with the discussion about the shed, the latter part of that discussion. And I think I'm hearing that there's some question as to whether the adjustment approval criteria even apply to an encroachment within an easement. Is that correct?
Yeah, so let's let the translator get caught up.
What was he, what was the last part that he said? I'm sorry, I can't hear you.
He was wondering if we were discussing whether an adjustment is needed for the shed. Is that correct?
Yes.
All right. I think if I understand Ms. Schrems correctly, she's saying that as long as it's less than 9 feet tall, that it's okay.
I'd say it's height dependent, and we're only doing an adjustment to the setbacks. We can't adjust easements because those are civil agreements.
Okay, that's what I thought, that the adjustment criteria would not apply to the fact that the shed is within the easement. Is that correct?
That's correct. So because that agreement is pretty much between the property owners and the water management district, the water management district gets to decide if it's okay with them. Our part is whether they can put it where they've put it. which is
Okay.
a setback issue.
Thanks. I just wanted to find out whether that was going to be a stumbling block in getting past the shed. Thank you.
Okay, thanks. All right, why don't we turn to Mr. Mendoza, the applicant. If you just come up to this chair here.
Do you want a chair?
And if you could just give us your full name, spell your last name, and your address.
Si nos puede dar su nombre completo, puede deletrear su apellido y nos puede dar también su domicilio.
Ok, mi nombre es José Rafael Álvarez Mendoza.
My name is Jose Rafael Alvarez Mendoza.
Mi dirección es 375 Diana Street, Northeast Salem, Oregon.
My,
Thanks. And do you swear or affirm that the testimony you will give is true to the best of your knowledge?
¿Y usted jura que el testimonio que va a dar es cierto a lo que usted sepa?
Sí.
So this is your opportunity to present any evidence or make any arguments you want to make.
Esta es su oportunidad de presentar evidencia o hacer el argumento a favor de su caso.
Ok. Ok. ¿Puedo contestar, verdad? Ok. Mi pregunta es, ¿por qué esta señora me quiere quitar lo de 5 pies? En primer lugar.
My first question is why this lady wants to take away 5 feet that in the first place.
Well, I can't answer for her, but I think she doesn't like having that in the setback and she wants the setbacks enforced.
Bueno, yo no puedo responder por ella tiene que responder eso, pero creo que ella no quiere esos 5 pies en el setback.
Entonces, ¿cuál es el problema? ¿Por qué me quiere? O sea, pues, que ¿por qué me hacen a que yo deje 5 pies de mi propiedad y me recorra para adentro a dejar esos 5 pies de propiedad?
Yeah, that's kind of what I'm wondering, what the problem is so that I have to leave 5 feet of my property and move inward.
Wondering what the problem is? Well, the issue is that there is a required 5-foot setback, 5 feet, you can't put anything in unless you get this adjustment, at least for the carport, there's an issue regarding the shed, but that's just in the code and that's what's required.
Bueno, es que hay un requisito que dice que uno no puede poner nada en esos 5 pies de la línea, entonces esos son los requisitos. ¿Vale?
Okay. ¿Y por qué ella tiene sus árboles en la mera línea de mi propiedad también? Donde se juntan las dos líneas de su propiedad de la señora con mi propiedad están los árboles, están todos ya para el otro lado de mi propiedad. Yo por mí no hay problema. ¿Por qué estás? Si eso ella dice que tenemos que estar 5 pies de la propiedad, ¿por qué sembró sus árboles al mero límite, a donde está el lindero de la casa?
If that's the case, then I was wondering why she is able to have her trees within the 5 feet of the property.
Well, I think the,
Structures only.
yeah, trees, it only applies to things you build, not to plants or trees.
Bueno, solo aplica a estructuras que uno crea, que construye.
Ujú.
No aplica a plantas, arbustos, árboles, no aplica eso.
Okay, pero yo no tengo árboles. Ella es la que tiene los árboles.
Es lo que está diciendo, que no, eso no aplica a árboles, solo a algo que usted construye.
Ok, ahora otra cosa. ¿Por qué la señora me está haciendo eso si el problema empezó porque yo tenía unos perros de cacería?
Okay, so now that's addressed, I'm wondering why the lady's doing this, because the problem all started because they had some hunting dogs.
Y ahora me hizo que perdiera mis perros, los mandara a dormir como dicen aquí, los mandaba matar. Ella misma me dijo que no los quería, entonces yo los mandé matar.
Yeah,
Los,
and since there was something that happened, she made me, put them down, as they say. I put them to sleep.
ok, entonces ya que ya no tengo los perros, se fue con los carros, con mis carros, porque yo entiendo que tenía muchos carros, porque tengo mi compañía, mi business. Entonces, ella ahora, ya dejé los parqueaderos, ya no me parqueo allí, ya no hay nada de carros, los tengo en mi shop. Entonces ahora ya se brincó con la propiedad. ¿Por qué es eso? Es lo que no entiendo yo.
And following that, it was about too many vehicles at my house, and I understand I have my own business, that's why I have them, but now that's taken care of, now they're at my shop, but now another problem is with the property. Now it's this.
And so sort of people's reasons for wanting the code enforced is not really something we get into. If the issue it's just sort of, there's a code and you have to comply with it. If somebody is challenging it, we don't really look at whether they have good reasons or valid reasons, or whether they're being good neighbors or bad neighbors. Just, that's not something we look at, we just look at the code.
Sí, básicamente nosotros no miramos mucho la razón detrás de por qué quieren que reforcemos este código. Nosotros nada más miramos si hay un código y si se tiene que reforzar, pues
Ok,
se tiene que aplicar.
yo entiendo,
Las razones.
yo entiendo porque pues todos los problemas es por eso de que salieron esos problemas. Ahora, si el Porsche, el carport no lo quiero para carros, no lo quiero para nada, es para pasar mi tiempo ahí con mi familia en el verano. Yo no parqueo carros, tengo un año que no parqueo carros. ¿Por qué se está poniendo de ese plan? Yo a ella nunca le he dicho nada y sus árboles están cruzados para mi propiedad. Entonces yo no me meto con ella para que ella no se meta, pero ella me está... Lo que no me parece a mí es de que yo me corte 5 pies para mi propiedad.
Yeah, I understand that. And for example, with the carport, I don't park any cars in there. I only use it for my family when it's summertime. We just spend time there. What I don't understand is like what I don't agree with is that these 5 feet that I have to move back.
Ahora, otra cosa. Si me acorto 5 pies para mi propiedad, ¿por dónde van a meter, en un caso de emergencia, por dónde van a meter un carro a limpiar el pump que hay allí en mi casa?
For example, if I move in 5 feet, how is the vehicle going to go in there? Because there's a pump in the back. How's the vehicle, in case of an emergency, how's the vehicle going to get in there to clean that pump out?
Well, I don't write the codes, I'm just the hearings officer, so.
Bueno, yo no escribo el código, nosotros estamos aquí para ver si reforzamos esos códigos o enforzamos.
Ok, y ahora, otra cosa de que el Porsche de atrás, hasta de atrás en la casa, ese lo puedo acortar, lo puedo tumbar. El shell. Ajá. Ese lo puedo tumbar, pero lo que yo quiero que me comprendan, que me entiendan que ese que tengo allí, que hice, pues no me gustaría tumbarlo.
Yeah, and then with the shed in the back, I mean I can take it down, but it's just I kind of I don't want to. I built it.
Right.
Correcto.
Pero el Porsche, yo pienso que no es necesario tumbarlo, porque la persona que está aquí atrás, ella fue a investigar y los dijo que ese Porsche no había problemas, que ese estaba fuera de... No había problemas con eso, que el único que a lo mejor había eso era del carport.
And the person back here, they went to inspect the shed. They said that one was okay, that they didn't need to knock it down. The only one that could be an issue was the carport.
Y ahora pues yo lo que les pido de que pues no me hagan a tumbar el carport. O sea, no, que no me acorten. Porque si me acortan, como quiera lo voy a hacer, pero el problema va a ser que en el futuro, si hay una emergencia en esa pompa de agua, me van a hacer tumbar todo, porque no van a encontrar por dónde pasar.
Yeah, and kind of what I really don't want is to kind of have to cut down the carport, because I will if I have to, but in the future, if there's an emergency and that water pump needs to be serviced, I'll have to take the whole thing down either way, because a vehicle won't be able to get through.
Y eso es lo que ella también dice, la señora, que es el pendiente que le da, que qué va a pasar con esa pompa. Entonces, si tanto pendiente le da a ella, ¿por qué me hace acortar a que le cierre yo el paso a la ciudad, a la Mar County?
And that's kind of what the lady said, that kind of has her at some worry, I guess, that in the future, if that water pump needs to be serviced, that how they'll get through.
Okay. Mr. Asmussen, why don't you head over to Ms. Shrem's microphone, and just for the record, Mr. Asmussen, is by the testimony you're providing, do you swear or affirm that it's true to the best of your knowledge?
Yes.
Okay, thanks.
I just wanted to quickly interject that there is no water pump in their backyard.
Yeah, I was confused about that.
That's all I wanted to say.
What
There's no
are,
water pump that would need to be serviced.
is he talking about the detention?
Yes, but there's no pump. There's
Okay.
no mechanical device. That's the only thing I wanted to mention.
Okay, so-
Quería decir es que no hay una pompa de agua atrás, que es una detención.
Eso es. Ujú.
So any servicing of the detention facility, you would just drive into the driveway under where that carport is, back to where the shed is?
Any regular maintenance would simply be by pickup truck driving through the carport.
Sí, dice que cualquier mantenimiento tendría un acceso por el cuerpo con una troca.
Sí pueden entrar.
Something of greater magnitude, like digging up the pipe that leads to the backyard,
Algo de una magnitud más alta, como escarbar la pipa que va hacia la yarda de atrás.
would require a large machinery like a backhoe,
Requeriría una maquinaria grande como un bajo.
but the need for that would be considered near zero in our lifetime.
Casi cero en esta vida.
Thank
All
you.
right, thank you.
Gracias.
Is there anything else Mr. Mendoza would like to add?
¿Algo más que le gustaría agregar a usted, señor Mendoza?
Pues no, yo lo que quisiera es de que no me hicieran tumbar nada de mi propiedad.
No, I just don't really want to
Yo-
demolish anything from my property.
Yo con ella no me he metido nunca, tenemos 20 años viviendo ahí, 22 años.
I haven't really gone and we haven't really had I haven't had any problems with her, and we've been living there for 20 years. I haven't really tried to,
Yo nunca he
Oh,
tenido
yes.
problemas.
How long has the carport been up?
¿Cuánto tiempo ha estado el carport?
Un año, menos de un año.
A year, less than a year.
Less than a year.
Pero eso empezó desde que tuve mis perros.
But it all started when I had my dogs.
Did you want to have any of the other people testify?
¿Quiere que los demás testifiquen?
Okay.
Me too.
All right, yeah. Why don't you just come up like one at a time?
¿Por qué no viene uno a la vez?
Maybe you just have her give her full name, spell her last, and her address.
Puede decir su nombre completo, deletrear su apellido y dar su domicilio.
Okay. My name is Evelyn Alvarez. My address is 4362 Regan Court Northeast, Salem, Oregon. I just want to clarify some stuff. So once, I don't really understand a lot of the code stuff, but I know when we went to put in the application, what we were going for was the 0 setback, and then we did, I think Alyssa was the one she told us, let's just include the shed just to be on the safe side since I didn't know much of the measurements. So that's why I included it. But like I told, my dad told me, if the shed is a problem, we can go ahead and put it down. Like my dad said, the only thing that he doesn't want to do is the carpool. That's the main part since that's where we spend most of our summers. That's where we spend it there.
Evelyn, can I get you just to tell us your name and address again? I didn't realize it wasn't written down.
5362 Regan Court in Salem, Oregon.
Regan?
Regan, yeah.
And the zip code is
97306.
206. And then I didn't catch your last name.
Alvarez?
Alvarez, okay, thanks.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
And then also, I didn't really understand the our neighbor's paperwork, but to my understanding, I think she said that her main concerning was that the pond gets its service. And like John said, that pond, we've maintained it all these years. They've never had to go in there and do lawn. They didn't ever have to do it. And like he said, he doesn't see it coming in the future. But to my understanding, that was her main concern, the pond getting its service and that the carpool was going to be on the way. But I mean, it's not, you know, John saying he doesn't see it in the future. And then if we can get these setbacks down to zero, I don't see her problem with the pond getting service and the carpool being on the way.
And so just the Bycrofts, they live on the other side of the carport, is that right?
What was that?
Where do the Bycrofts live? I couldn't tell from, I assume they're
Our
next
neighbors?
door. Yeah, your neighbor.
Yeah, they live like next to the carpool. Our house is right here, the carpool is right here, and they live next to the carpool.
Okay, so they're on Deanna Street as well.
They're like right in the corner, so I don't think their address is.
They have a different address.
Yeah, they have a different address. I think hers is like on the corner.
Okay, because when I look at the map, there's another property in between, but maybe that's something else. Okay. All right. Was there anything else you wanted to add?
No,
Okay.
I think the other things don't. I don't have to mention them since what we're saying here is just because of the carpool. But like my dad said, it all started because of our dogs. We had to put them asleep, and that was, I don't know, I think that was her problem. And now she wants to go against our property, but has nothing to do with this.
All right,
Yeah.
great. Thank you.
Yeah.
Did you want to testify, ma'am? If you come up.
Do you want me to go check that out?
What is that anyway?
I believe I heard her yelling FBI, so he might be a protester,
Oh.
but I can poke my head out.
Okay, just try to tell where it's coming from. so.
It's like the street.
Oh, okay.
I'll go take a quick look for a minute.
Okay. All right, ma'am, if you just give us your name, your full name, spell your last name and your address.
Por favor, puede decir su nombre completo, deletrear su apellido y darnos su domicilio.
Mi nombre es Rosalba Rangel. Mi dirección es 375 Diana Street, noreste en Ceilán, Oregon.
My name is Rosalba.
Rangel.
Rangel.
I'm sorry, what was that?
Rosalba Rangel.
Rosalba Alvarez?
Rangel. Rangel.
Oh, is this? She's one of the applicants?
¿Es una de las aplicantes?
Sí.
Yes.
Rosalba Rangel. Okay. Great, thank you.
Yeah.
And did you swear or affirm that the testimony you prepared to give is true to the best of your knowledge?
¿Y usted jura que el testimonio que va a decir es cierto de lo que usted sepa?
Sí.
Yes.
Okay, all right, go ahead.
Yo nomás quiero aportar algo a esto, como dijo mi esposo, todo comenzó por los perros y
I just wanted to add a little bit to this. Like my husband said, this all kind of started with the dogs.
Y muchas veces fueron, que ella siempre hablaba al policía que iba para que viera cómo vivían los perros. Siempre iba el policía y el policía encontraba bien los perros con comida, con agua, y nunca nos llamó la atención o que nos dijeran que los perros estaban en maltrato. Siempre hubo muchas veces le habló ella.
And it was mostly that she would call the police to check up on the dogs to see if they were in good living conditions. And the police did come many times. They would check and they would see that they have water, they have food, that they're not being mistreated. They never told us that we were doing anything wrong with our dogs, but it was many times when she called them.
Y algo que yo noté últimamente el año pasado, que ella tenía como cámara, y su cámara en el patio de su casa estaba como para ver a mi casa, y dije, pues que nomás pensé que está haciendo la vecina, nos está tomando video de lo que pasa en mi casa, pero todo eso quedó así. Al punto que quiero llegar yo, que nos deshicimos de los perros, y lo que nos dolió a todos, más que nada una de mis hijas, que hasta ahora todavía ella recuerda esos perros porque no se querían deshacer de ellos, y ella todavía ora por esos perros, y siempre ellas están, que cuando los fuimos a dejar, aquí está mi hija, que fue conmigo a entregarlos allá al Mero Country, y no se quisieron bajar mis hijas, porque no aguantaron el dolor de ver los perros dejarlos. Ahora la vecina, ¿por qué nos está haciendo esto? Tenemos 22 años en esta casa, es nuestro hogar, mis hijos ahí crecieron, y porque ella ya es grande de edad, ahora en este verano siempre trato de tener mi nieta, mis hijas, de que no anden allí cerca de allí gritando. Entonces, ¿cómo no puedo vivir yo en mi casa con paz de decir que la vecina nos vaya a hacer algo? No es justo.
And we just left it like that. So I've noticed that last summer there was some cameras, some security cameras that she had in front of her house, and I did notice that they were actually pointed to our house. So I was wondering, what is our neighbor doing? You know, is she just videotaping us, or what's going on? But we just left it like that. What kind of hurts me the most is that, like I said, with the dogs, we had to put them down. That's one of the things that still hurts me to this day the most, is that my daughters didn't want to take the dogs to put to sleep. We didn't want to put them down. When we went to Marion County to get that done, my daughters didn't want to get down. So right now, that's kind of, we love those dogs and we had to put them down. Right now, I'm wondering why she's doing this to us about the property right now. I feel like we can't even live in peace. I tell my kids to not even get near, because I yell at them sometimes to not even get near to the property line, because we don't want anything to do with any problems with her. I know just because she's older right now, I don't know. I feel like we can't live in peace there.
That was an impressive translation. Okay. Well, thank you for your testimony, ma'am. And I'm sorry about the dogs. I'm a huge dog person, so I hate to hear about things like that.
Gracias por su testimonio y lo siento demasiado por sus perros. Yo amo a los perros, a los míos también.
So I think that's everybody who's here. So I think now we'll probably call the Bycross and have them testify.
Creo que son todos los que están aquí, entonces ahora vamos a hablar al partido opuesto para que ellos den.
Hello,
Hi, is this Melody Bycroft?
this is Melody Bycroft.
Hi, this is Fred Wilson. I'm the Marion County Hearings Officer. I don't know if you've been watching along on TV for the hearing.
I have. Should I address some of the lies I heard?
Well,
Or
hold
just
on,
talk about our permit issue?
Let's stick to the permit issues. So first of all, why don't you give us your name and address just so it shows up on the record?
Okay, my name is Melody Bycroft, Bycroft. I'm at 4290 Monroe Avenue Northeast, Salem, Oregon 97301. The dogs were run over by cars on Lancaster Drive, by the way.
And so do you swear or affirm that the testimony you'll give will be true to the best of your knowledge?
I do.
Okay.
And then some, if you want me to address it.
Let me make sure seat. So I went back to my seat, Ms. Bycroft. Can you still hear me?
Yes, I can.
Okay, great. So let's definitely just stick to the issues with the adjustment,
Fine.
not get into anything with the dogs, because no matter who's right about that, that just doesn't have anything to do with whether the adjustment should be approved or not. So I think it'd be best if we just don't talk about that. But this would be your opportunity to talk about the approval criteria.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, Marion County, for your work in our community and safe practices for participation in these hearings during the pandemic. I thank the Marion County also for referral to Public Works and information regarding the detention basin and missing pond orifice. I understand that's a separate issue from this. It was of concern to me, and I didn't know about it until we received the request for variance. I did call Marion County I think it's been 2 years now, about the side setbacks and work that was going on to question about it. It's just taken this long to get this far. The Marion County workers are very busy people.
Hey, just a second, Ms. Bycroft. Are you able to keep up? Okay, thanks. All right, please go ahead.
Oh, should I go slower?
Oh, I was just checking, but we have a very skilled interpreter, and so he's keeping up,
Okay.
so.
Yeah, they do speak English, but I understand.
Okay.
The remaining purpose of the appeal is to address two conditions listed in the Notice of Adjustment case, number 20-006. Condition 2 seems, I guess, questioned by everybody, and I'm still not sure what it means. A 5-foot setback shall be maintained for the carport, is what the Condition 2 stated. Please clarify in the report how a 5-foot setback will be maintained was my question. A carport has been built with a 12-foot high roof, 12-foot high wall, and cement pad built to the north property line. I don't know how the decision affects the roof and the wall. Since the north property line has been used for parking large vehicles, maintaining a standing fence has been difficult and prevented me from securing a pet in my backyard. To this end, the cement pad has been useful. We could secure a fence at this point, I believe. But the lack of privacy in my backyard over the years, because it was being used as a driveway, led me to plant an arborvitae hedge. The hedge is planted 2.5 feet inside my property line. They leave a lot of debris and garbage on the property line, which I've taken to the landfill many times. So it might be hard for them to measure that, but the hedges are 2.5 feet inside. And yet, even with that space, construction of the carport has made it difficult and dangerous to maintain. The hedges get overgrown. I would rather keep them lower and tidier, but I can't reach around or back to do that safely. Condition 3 states the accessory structure shall maintain a 2-foot setback rather than the regulation 5 feet from the north property line. The original accessory structure is a storeroom, and it met the requirement of a 5-foot setback. But later, a roof and wall were attached to the storeroom, and they do not. They come all the way out to the property line and make it difficult in that area to keep the fence up. I think it's because of the extra water running off the roof. The applicant's request for a variance of a 2-foot setback would require removal of the roof and wall. I'm sorry, I'm upset to think about the dogs. It was heartbreaking, that whole situation, to watch them being hit and kicked. It was awful. Let's see. The applicant's request for variance of a 2-foot setback would require removal of the roof and wall, and I find no reason for anything to be rebuilt beyond the standard requirement of a 5-foot setback. In closing, I recently built an accessory structure. I met with a Marion County planner and was told I did not need a permit, but be sure to maintain the regulation 5-foot setback. Indeed, encroachment beyond the 5-foot setback places an unfair burden on adjacent properties, from increased fire danger to safe building and landscape maintenance. I look forward to the regulation of a 5-foot setback on the north property line to enable maintenance and eliminate barriers to the future use of my backyard. Thank you, Marion County, for your time and expertise.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Bycroft. So I don't have a great understanding of how everything's located. So you live next door and their driveway sort of separates your property, is that right?
It is my backyard. I'm on Monroe. My house faces Monroe Avenue, but my backyard borders the side yard of Deanna Street, of the 375 Deanna Street house.
Okay.
So I sent pictures with my...
I've looked at those pictures, I'm just trying to tell, wasn't sure whose house was whose. So there's one picture that shows, like, not cobblestone, but like a brick, looks like a back patio, and then grass, and then a hedge. And I'm thinking that's your backyard, is that correct? And then you see a blue house, it would be Mr. Mendoza's house, is that right?
Yes.
Okay, and so I can see a little bit of a white sort of roof, and that's the carport?
Yes.
Okay. And so, tell me again how the carport is interfering with you. You said it makes it hard to go back and keep your hedges trimmed, and you said stuff's coming off the roof onto your yard, is that right?
Yes, and at some points, the things were being stacked on the roof. I think that was removed. I don't remember if it was before or after the compliance officer was there, but they were stacking things on the roof, and they blew into our yard, fell into our yard, I guess, a couple times. And rain gutter was on it. I don't think they put it back on, but it blew into our yard, and it was just a problem. It's a problem to keep the arborvitae trimmed and nice. Nobody, you worry about slicing into the roof with it. They're the tall roofs they have, and it would be lower, but it's really ugly also. and so we kind of have to keep growing to cover up whatever they put up is kind of the problem. But that's all right. But the maintenance, the safety, the landscaping of it, people throwing things into my yard from the side. The reason we got a camera in the garden is things were being thrown into the garden, and that's back by the storage room. And I was worried about the vegetables I get from there and give to people to eat. So.
I see. And so what's between, like I see the hedge and I can see the white roof. Is there a fence behind there, or you said there's a concrete pad?
There's a wall actually in that section. And when they put the wall in, they put in a nice fence with heavy cement things leading up to the carport. And I appreciated that because we had a fence up before that, but it kept falling down over the past 20 years when they've been parking and putting things there. And they still are parking there, just not the big trucks anymore. Or right now, not the big trucks, while they're being watched. And so it's been a safety hazard. I don't know how to say that. Nobody believes me, maybe, but I could gather people, I suppose, and say, yes, did you see the wood stacked on it? And so that was a problem at many points. And if I would put something back in their yard, they would say, how dare you throw things into our west? Like, I'm putting them on the side. But
So-
it's all, it's a problem because at first we didn't have a fence. Possibly now we'll have a fence with the cement pad in. I don't object to the cement at all. Just the high roof and the wall that make it impossible for us to maintain a decent hedge on my side, which was put 2.5, 3 feet in.
Okay.
I can't hire people to clip it. They don't want to work there. And, you know, we do what we can, but it's difficult. The other end of the property line is, well, I would have liked to have built my own shed back there, but with everything crammed up against the property line, it was difficult. When they did have dogs back there, there were 4, 5 different numbers at a time, and the care was horrible. The smell was horrible. The dogs were in cages under, if you see the picture, under the addition to the storeroom. And it was just terrible. Right now, it's true. The dogs were run over on Lancaster Avenue. And it was awful, I hear, by the people that saw it.
Okay. Well, let's move on from the dogs a little bit.
So I wanted to I didn't put a shed back there because everything was like leaning up against the fence. It just seemed like it was asking for more trouble. I built on another section of my property. And at some point in the future, I would love to have a greenhouse or something back there. But if people keep building into the 5-foot setback, it's really difficult to use it for the purposes I would like.
Okay, so I know you don't like the carport part, and if I understand correctly, the sort of roofed area from the shed that goes up to your property line, you object to that too. Do you object to if they took that sort of lean-to roof off the shed? Is your objection that it's within the rear yard setback of the neighbor on the other side, or are you just concerned about the one on your property line?
I'm just concerned about this section to my property. There's already a storage room on the property line on the west side, but it's been there since like 1950s, and it was there when we came, and the person that gets there first gets to say, I think, is pretty much my philosophy. So I haven't minded that, but new construction, here and now, with all of us packed into that little corner and having it shared, it doesn't really make sense that the setbacks wouldn't be followed. And I don't mind the west one. I don't mind the storeroom the way he originally had it. It's the adding on of the plywood and the roof, and it's nice to say the dogs aren't there now, and I would not do harm to the dogs. I offered to buy them from them because I wanted to find them good homes. I was so worried about how they were being treated. Anyway, sorry.
Okay.
Who knows what will be back there next, and if it should happen again, I would rather not smell it and have the mess and the kibble and things draining into my yard. 5-foot setback is very important to me.
Okay. All right. Does your husband want to testify as well, or do I need to call?
Yes, he has a totally different focus than I do, so.
Okay. Is he there, or do I need to call the other number?
He's there, and I can give him the phone here if that's easier for you.
That would be great. Thanks.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Also, I would like the record to be left open.
Oh, okay.
Thank you.
We will. You have the right to do that. We'll sort of talk about the open record period right at the end of the hearing.
All right, thank you.
Okay. All right, are you there, Mr. Bycroft?
Can you speak slower, please?
Okay. Do we have Mr. Bycroft?
Are you there?
Oh, can you speak up a little more, sir?
Hello? I can't hear you.
Mr. Bycroft, can you give us your name and address, and then I'll swear you in, but could you also talk a little bit louder, please?
Hello?
Ms. Bycroft, are you there still? Because we're not getting Mr. Bycroft.
Yes.
Oh, okay, that's better.
My
And,
name is Paul Bycroft, Bycroft. Address is 4290 Monroe Avenue Northeast, Salem, 97301-485.
okay, and we're gonna need to talk a little bit slower. I've been going too fast,
Hello?
for people to keep up. Okay, we've got Mr. Bycroft now. And so, Mr. Bycroft, do you swear or affirm that the testimony you will give is true to the best of your knowledge? Mr. Bycroft? Are any of the,
Yes.
okay, do you swear or affirm that the testimony you will give is true to the best of your knowledge?
Yes, I do.
Okay, please go ahead, and let's try to speak more slowly and take pauses so the interpreter has a chance to interpret.
Oh, I can't hear you either, so. Yes, okay. Should I start now?
Yeah, and if you're listening to the TV at the same time, that might be causing the interruption, so you might want to turn that off while you testify, or turn the sound off. Because we're having a lot of delay.
There's a little delay. If I walk away from my computer, I can't hear you.
Yeah, if you wouldn't mind just speaking, there's a bit of a delay, so right now, you're free to speak, there isn't anything going on.
I know, but I can't hear him. I just hear him on move. Please.
I think he's trying to listen to your audio.
Please call me on my phone number.
He says he'd like us to call him on his phone number.
Okay.
Okay, we'll call you back, okay? He can call.
You can do it.
I might know how to do
Okay, just hit 9.
that. Yeah.
Hello.
Hi there, is this Paul?
Yes, it is.
All right, this is Alyssa. We're with the hearings officer. If you'd like to testify, you can go ahead. Just
Okay.
please speak slowly and do some breaks so we can get the interpretation, okay?
Yes, I will.
All right, thank you.
Do I need to give my name and address again?
No, we got all that, but this is coming through much better, so this is great.
I think you still
Okay.
need to go for
Yes, I can hear you too. Thanks.
Oh, but you do affirm that your testimony is true to the best of your knowledge?
Actually, one of the issues that I wanted to address was the, already addressed by Ms. Schrems about the maintaining the 5-foot setback on the
Paul,
carport.
real quickly, we still need you to affirm that your testimony is true to the best of your knowledge.
Oh, yes, I do.
All right,
Okay,
thank you. Go
thanks.
ahead.
All right. The one issue that I first wanted to address was condition number 2 in the county's notice of decision. But I think Ms. Schrems already addressed that, saying they made a typo, and the carport will maintain a 0 5-foot setback.
Yes.
Is that correct?
That's how she explained it, yeah. So basically, I think if the decision was just adopted the way it, without, if it was just approved, they would just take that condition out.
All right. Regarding the condition number 3, the accessory structure, our issue isn't with the structure itself, it's with the flat roof that extends out from it. And I was listening to the 9-foot height versus setback criteria, and I'm a little confused. Does that apply just to rear yard or to side yard?
I think if I understood Mrs. Schrem's testimony, she was saying that it only applies to, or you can take advantage of that to have a structure up against the property line if it's a side yard. I don't know, and that's what I understood Ms. Schrem to testify.
All right. So, given that, if I want to build something that's 9 foot or less tall, I can put it right against the property line.
That's what I believe Ms. Schrem's was testifying. I can't guarantee that right here, right now, but that's what I understood her to say.
Okay. All right. It sounds like maybe the issues I wanted to address actually have been satisfied if the county is going to require the carport roof to be removed, and I'm not sure about the wall section. The carport itself is approximately 12 feet high from the ground and runs about 50 to 60 feet long. Beneath it is they've paved a driveway, which we have no objection to the driveway whatsoever. I just wanted to make 2 other comments. One is we did indeed call the county enforcement about the dogs. One time they came out, we got a report on it, and we kind of dropped the issue after that. We've never made a complaint about their vehicles. I just wanted that to be on the record. Maybe somebody else has, but we have not. I really have not too much else to add at this point. I understand that they've got to obtain all the proper permits from the Building Inspection Division. And condition number 4, that's mislabeled condition number 2, says they need to significantly conform to the site plan submitted, but the site plan was just pretty much a sketch. It wasn't very elaborate.
Okay.
So, also, when the decision has been made on this hearing. Are we going to get a written copy? Do we have to request that?
No, you'll get sent a written copy of the decision.
Okay. Well, in that case, I thank you for your time. I really would prefer to give testimony in person, but given the COVID situation, I think this was a better way to do it. But thank you for your time and consideration.
Okay, and before you go, so your wife requested that the record be left open, so the record's gonna be left open. The way that usually works is there's 3 parts to it: a new evidence period where you can submit whatever you want, a responsive period where you can submit things in response to things that come in during that first period. Then there's a final time for the applicant to do their final legal argument. Just no evidence, just a legal argument. So we generally do 1 week, 1 week, 1 week. That be enough time for you?
Oh, that's fine.
Okay. Okay, I think with that then, especially if y'all are gonna be watching the rest of the hearing on TV, we will explain that at the end of the hearing, how the record will be left open.
All right.
Okay, thank you for your testimony.
You're welcome.
All right, Ms. Schrems, now's the opportunity for any staff issues to be addressed.
Yep, so I just want to reiterate that if the shed is in fact less than 9 feet tall, a 0-foot setback in the rear yard is allowed, based on that one code section I cited for you. As to the carport, the regular setbacks would be 5 feet, but they are requesting that variance to that standard.
It sounds like if that shed's been there for 50 or 70 years, it could be a non-conforming use as well, too.
Potentially, what I gathered from the conversation was that the shed, the roof line was extended.
Yeah, that part wouldn't be.
If that was the case, I mean, even with that, we do have sections that allow for projections of roofs as well. They can get within a certain amount of distance to the property line. But if it's less than 9 feet tall, the entire structure is covered by that 0-foot setback due to the height.
But that's just for the rear yard, not for the side yard going towards the Bycroft.
Well, it's the rear and side yard, as long as it's completely behind the house in the rear yard. The rear setback and the side setback can be 0.
Oh, the side setback can be 0 as well?
Yeah, so the rear, we have a lot of yards that we use interchangeably. So when you are completely behind the house, like no portion of your building overlaps with the house, that's your rear yard. From there, the height of your building from the property line is 9, and you get a 0-foot setback for both that rear yard and the side yard. So you could be 0 feet in the corner.
Gotcha, okay, thank you.
Yeah, sorry, that was probably not very clear when I was explaining it earlier.
Well, thank you. Was that it for staff?
That's pretty much it, yeah.
Okay, thanks.
Just clarifying that.
So now is the opportunity for the applicant to do any rebuttal they'd like to do. Yeah, why don't we come back up to the microphone just so we make sure we get it on the record.
Ok, lo que quiero decir es de que la señora está mintiendo mucho.
What I just wanted to say that the lady, she's lying a lot.
Porque yo nunca, ni mis hijos, echan basura para su lado.
Because we never, or my kids ever threw junk into your yard.
Más que a lo mejor una vez por ahí una pelota con que juegan fútbol. Eso es lo que a veces se iba, pero ahorita ya no, porque mis hijos ya están grandes.
Maybe there was one time where a soccer ball went over her side, but my kids are all grown up now, so that doesn't.
Lo que a lo mejor no estoy muy seguro, pero yo pienso que lo que se fue con el aire para su propiedad fue un downspout del garre. Eso fue lo que se fue, pienso.
One of the things that maybe could have gone into our property because of the wind is the downspout from the gutter.
Y eso fue todo lo que se fue.
That's it.
Y a lo que les entiendo también, están hablando de otro shell que está en la otra propiedad de otra propiedad de otro lado. Eso yo no tengo que ver nada ahí.
My understanding is, if you guys are talking about a shed, maybe it's the one that's on another property that has nothing to do with mine. I'm not sure.
So, the Bycross have requested the record be left open, which they get to do. So, there's 3 parts to the open record period.
Entonces los Bycross pidieron que mantuvieran el récord abierto y lo que sucede es hay 3 periodos durante este récord abierto.
Okay.
And usually we do 1 week for each period. If Mr. Mendoza wants more time, we can do that if he agrees to extension of our deadline, but we usually do 1 week, 1 week, 1 week.
Y normalmente hacemos una semana por cada periodo. Entonces una semana, otra semana y otra semana. Si usted quiere una extensión, eso empujaría la fecha en que vamos a hacer nuestra edición para atrás. Si gustaría más extensión, podría pedir.
Sí, pues sí, porque no estoy de acuerdo con todo lo que dijo la señora. Está mintiendo, está echando mentiras, muchas mentiras.
Yeah, well, I wasn't in agreement with a lot of things she said. There's a lot of lies there.
Al contrario, yo le estoy levantando las hojas de su árbol cada vez de que hay hojas. Junto las basura, la tiro, nunca le digo nada al vecino ni a la vecina, porque a mí no me cuesta nada con levantar la basura y ponerla en su lugar la basura.
Yeah, on the contrary, I've been picking up a lot of their like leaves every autumn when the leaves drop. I don't tell them anything because that really doesn't cost me anything. I just pick it up and throw it away.
And so you can talk about that when you submit stuff during the open record period. But again, most of that doesn't have anything to do with the actual approval criteria. So I highly suggest that concentrate on the approval criteria.
Y todo eso puede usted someterlo en esos periodos de open record, pero como le digo, mucho de lo que es eso no tiene nada que ver con la criteria de la línea de la propiedad. Entonces le sugiero altamente que nada más someta cosas que van hacia la criteria de la propiedad.
Ok, bueno, pues está bien.
Okay, that's fine.
So the way it'll work is, so we're going to close the public hearing, so no more coming in and testifying.
Entonces la manera que esto va a suceder es vamos a cerrar la audiencia pública, entonces ya no van a venir a testificar,
But you'll be able to submit documents to the planning department.
pero van a poder someter documentos al departamento del plaintiff.
And if you have any questions about how to do that, Ms. Schrems can help you.
Who again?
Mrs. Schrems.
Y si tiene alguna pregunta, la señorita al lado le puede ayudar con eso.
So for 1 week from today, 5 p.m., need to submit any new evidence, testimony, or argument that you have. So you can submit anything you want about any issue.
Entonces, en una semana, a las 5 p.m. de hoy, entonces va a poder someter a cualquier documento adicional, cualquier cosa adicional que quiere.
And then for the week after that, again, ending at 5 o'clock,
Y la semana después de eso, otra vez, acaban a las 5 acaba ese periodo.
you can submit whatever you want, as long as it responds to things that came in during that first week.
Puede someter algún otro documento que pueda ser algún argumento para lo que las otras personas sometieron.
And then finally, the third week, Mr. Mendoza will have opportunity to file his final legal argument. And so that's just argument, no new evidence.
Y finalmente, la tercera semana, usted va a tener la oportunidad de someter su argumento final legal. Entonces ahí ya no va a haber más documentos que someter, nada más su argumento final del caso.
Okay. And so again, I know that can be confusing if you've never been through it before, but if you talk to Ms. Schrems, she'll be happy to help you out.
Can you repeat that again? I'm sorry.
I know that's confusing if you haven't been through the process before, but Ms. Schrems is very helpful, like sort of talking people through it.
Y
They
yo
need
sé que
help.
puede ser quizás un poco confuso si no ha pasado por este proceso antes, pero la señorita Laro le puede ayudar y le puede hablar sobre el proceso.
Pues sí, porque no lo entiendo de eso así, de procesos para de semana tras semana, ¿no?
Yeah, because I'm not very, I'm very sure about this week after week process.
Um,
Pero si ella me puede ayudar, podemos investigar y hablar con qué es lo que va a suceder.
But if she can help me, then we can call and see how it's all going to work out.
Right. I'm not sure she could actually do it for you, but she can explain how it works.
No creo que ella lo pueda hacer por usted, pero ella le puede explicar exactamente cómo esto funciona.
Sí, sí, va a ser más.
Okay. Okay, well, with that, I think we can close the public hearing. The record is open, it's left open for those periods, 1 week for new evidence, 1 week for responses to the new evidence, and 1 week for your final legal argument. And then there'll be a written decision that comes out after that.
Okay, bueno, entonces dicho eso, creo que podemos cerrar la audiencia pública. Entonces vamos a dejar el récord abierto la primera semana para alguna evidencia nueva, la segunda semana para una respuesta y la tercera semana para el argumento final. Y después va a salir la decisión escrita. Okay.
All right. Thank you, everybody. That concludes today's proceeding.
Muchas gracias a todos. Eso es
Ok,
procedimiento.
muchas gracias. Thank you.